All right, y'all. Welcome, welcome. My name is Souffrant. I am your life coach, Mr. Masculinity, as they like to call me. And today we're going to talk about players, pimps, and tricks. The reality is, I want to deal with some of the old school rules. The rules that the players and the pimps and the tricks used to use back in the day. I recognize that we live in different times and times have changed, but like the game used to say, as much as things change, many things really stay the same. And so while some of the terminology might be offensive in today's context, I really want to break down how this game works so that we as brothers in particular, but also the sisters too, can know how to navigate and get the results that they want, at least in relationships. So let me start off by first saying this. You're going to hear me talk about hoes a lot. A hoe is not meant to be a derogatory term in the way that I use it. I'm using the word hoe to identify a specific type of person. So women can be hoes and men can be hoes. It doesn't mean that they're supposed to be disrespected. Doesn't mean that you're supposed to spit on their name and degrade them. It's a word to categorize a particular type of person. The other word that you'll hear me use is lady, or gentleman. These are words to, differentiate between hoes because hoes are used for a particular function and purpose. I'm never advocating for anybody to be degraded or disrespected. But if you feel like the description of a hoe is disrespectful, what I would suggest to you is that you choose not to be one because nobody is a hoe. Nobody is forced to be a hoe. We all choose whether or not we want to be hoes or whether or not we want to be players or pimps or gentlemen or wives or husbands. You're not a hoe just because somebody called you one. But as I described the different types of hoes that exist in the game, if you find yourself fitting one of those categories, I'm not disrespecting you. I'm trying to help you discover yourself so that you can make a better choice. And so hopefully you last long enough through this video to get all the answers that you need to get, but I'm not holding back. I'm giving you old school game. Look, I'm probably the only place you ever gonna find this on the internet. This is almost like a secret society where only those who knew. But I feel like now it's time for the game to be made public. I'm gonna give you as much of the game as I can. I can't give you everything because the game is vast. There's so much that happens in this dynamic between male and female. Male and male, female and female. There's a lot in relationship dynamics, so I can't give you everything, but I'm gonna give you as much as I can in this one video. Plus, I don't really want it to be too long. Now, if you really want the game, what you need to do is register to my course, Restoring Masculinity. That's where I drop a lot of the game in a more palatable format, if you will. It's a lot more academic. This right here, this is just the raw street version of the game. So I want to first start with the ideas of player, pimps, and tricks. We could just start there, right? So, no, I can't start there. I got to start with a hoe. I got to just break down what a hoe is. When I use the term hoe, what I'm talking about is an individual, a person whose function is to have fun. A hoe is someone that you don't take seriously. It's all for pleasure, leisure time. That's what a hoe is for. So you don't wife hoes. I wouldn't recommend it because those that you have fun with aren't necessarily those that you can commit to. Now, those who you commit to, you can have fun with. But those you have fun with, sometimes you can't commit to. And so I would never recommend committing to a hoe. So when I use the term a hoe, I'm talking about those that's just for your leisure pleasure, whether it be male or female. Now, in my language, I might refer to a hoe as a she just because I'm coming from a male perspective. But let me be abundantly clear. All genders can be hoes. I know a lot of men that are hoes. And one of the easiest way to know that you're a hoe is if you're chosen or if you're doing the choosing. See, players do the choosing, hoes get chosen. Right? So if you're not choosing, you're most likely a hoe. And once again, not here to disrespect you or degrade you, but if you don't like that, maybe you should start choosing what you want in life. The greatest relationships are those that choose each other. Not just I'm with him because he chose me. You might be his hoe and not his woman. For real, for real. Just like with the men, the woman chose you and you just rolling with her because she chose you. You might be her hoe and you think you her husband, right? And so she's treating you like the hoe that you are. This video is designed to help you change that. So a hoe, once again, is someone that is designed for just your leisure time. There's no longevity, at least not in the picture. It might happen. I've heard of long-term hoes where they're your hoe for 10 years, 20 years, but there's a reason why you never made them your spouse, because you know that they're just here for fun, right? So now you have what you call players, pimps, and tricks. The player, that's the person who gets their significant other or their leisure person. The players get the hoes without having to degrade them. The players get the hoes through their swag, through their charisma, through their personality. The players don't have to pay for hoes because the hoes like to be around the player. The player makes sure the hoes know that they're not the only ones. Now, players are smart. They're not going to tell the hoe who the other hoes are and how many of the hoes that he has, but he never lets the hoe believe that she's his only option. The player lets her know, yeah, you are one of a few or a many. You'll never actually know. See, a player knows how to make a hoe feel like she's the only one while also letting her know that she's not. It's a real delicate game. You got to have a certain level of patience, a certain level of emotional maturity to really be a player. Now, pimps is something completely different. Pimps are the type of people that win their hoes by degrading them, by making them feel like they can't get no better options. Pimps do this thing where they make the hoe feel like she's useless without them, that won't nobody else ever choose her. Pimps thrive off of disrespecting their hoes. And it's necessary because most pimps won't really have the swag and the charisma to keep her. Now, a pimp needs a little bit of swag and a little bit of charisma. He's not going to start off disrespecting you because, you attract more bees with honey, right? So he's going to start off sweet. He's going to start off like he like you, but you'll start to realize that the pimp starts chipping at your security. Pimp makes you feel less and less valuable. The pimp starts calling you names when you act up and then love bombing you, to make you feel special, but only special for the pimp. And so these type of hoes that the pimp get typically can be taken by another pimp or another player because it's not the best experience. And if another person knows how to run that game, make that person feel special, the hoe might leave that pimp for someone else. A lot of brothers think they pimps because they like the galore, the fur and the cane and all that other things. And yeah, there might be some attraction to that. But you got to be a real dark person to be a pimp. You can't be a person of the light and a pimp at the same time. The way that you got to treat your hoes, the way you got to talk to your hoes, you got to have a level of darkness. Now, the trick is a man or a woman who gets their hoes through their resources. They recognize that they don't got no swag, they ain't got no game. They don't have the wordplay. They're not really a vibe, but they got some money. They got a car. They got a nice crib. They got frequent flyer miles, whatever resources they got. Even a trick could be the nerd that's doing the homework for the ladies. That he's a trick too. Knowing if I do their homework, he could get some action. He don't have nothing else to offer except his resources. And a lot of people are tricks. They're just too broke to live it out. Is when they get to that status where they have resources that you start to realize, oh, you're nothing but a trick. See, the issue with a trick is not that he uses his resources to get what he wants from other people. The issue with the trick is that he actually thinks he's a player or that he's a pimp, not realizing that they only want you for what you have, never for you. Somewhere deep down, the trick knows that. That's why he works so hard to keep his material things, because he knows he'd be nobody without the clothes, without the car, without the money. He would never get no play. See, a player could be broke and still get all the play in the world because of how he moves. A pimp can be kind of broke, but he wouldn't really be a pimp if he's not getting any type of resources from the person. But a trick needs those resources to get what he wants. He's low level. Anybody can be a trick. You don't got to learn how to be a trick. You just have to acquire enough to be one, right? So we got different type of hoes. We got the public hoe. The public hoe, that's the one who's for anybody. The public hoe is the one who's just waiting to be chosen. Public hoe has no real standards. Not to say that I'll say this, the public hoe has low standards. Because just because they're a hoe doesn't mean that they're always down for the get down. Sometimes they just not feeling you. And it might be embarrassing when a hoe don't even want to give you none, but it be like that. Some of y'all just that corny. Where the hoe just says no to you. You just got to accept the reality. You can't force yourself on a hoe and think it's justified just because she's a hoe. It doesn't work like that. But the public hoe is kind of like, if I like you in the moment, you can get it in the moment. No, really, really low standards. You just got to be cute, or you just got to, have a way with words, might have to make her laugh, might have a little bit of money, whatever it is. She's just here for the moment. Really low standards. Then you got the private hoe. See, the private hoe is what you really want. If you're not going to go for the wife, I recommend going for the wife, right? But if you're not going to go for the wife, what you really want is the private hoe. See, the private hoe is where outside of your dynamics, she's not really a hoe. She's a hoe for you, right? And what makes her a hoe? Once again, it's just leisure time. You're not trying to commit to her. That's what makes her a hoe. But she will do things for you because it's you. She knows you're not committed. And she typically wouldn't even be about that. But you just had that way of speaking to her. You knew how to touch her a certain way. And so now she's your private hoe. She knows she's not your woman. She knows you're not claiming her. You become, I guess the term now in 2025 would be, the sneaky link. That's the private hoe. If nobody know what we doing, and I know that we not really together, but we having a good time. That's the private hoe. The private hoe is typically a person who likes to have fun, but doesn't really know what they want. Some of them have some level of insecurities where they feel like nobody would actually wife them. Very different from the lady. See, you got the lady. Well, before I get to the lady, let me talk about the third hoe, the pricey hoe. You got the public hoe, the private hoe, you got the pricey hoe. The pricey hoe, that's the hoe that can be bought. That's the hoe that doesn't care about your swag, your charisma, your intellect, your heart. She's all about that paper. See, the pricey hoe tends to link up with the trick, because the trick is using their resources and the pricey hoe is ready to be bought. And so that would be the person where she's not even giving you the time of day if you're not driving a certain type of car or if you're not breaking her off a certain. She's the one that's going to ask for $40 after the session. She's the one who, for whatever reason, could never seem to pay for her light bills. Always got her lights on, but she's always short every month. That's the pricey hoe. She's the one who's going to ask for a bag, and y'all not even together. But on the strength that you guys are having sex, she feels like she's entitled to ask for your resources and money. That's the pricey hoe. She's going to be bought by the highest bidder every single time. And if you're with a pricey hoe, don't ever think you're the only one, because you're not the only one with money, nor you're the only one spending money on her. Right? So don't ever be delusional. No matter how she makes you feel, you're never the only one. If you're the only one, it's because she just got started being a hoe. Just give her some time. She's going to find some other tricks. It's only a matter of time. So now you got the ladies. The lady, she's not a hoe. The lady has a certain level of self-respect about herself. She's the one who says, I choose who I'm going to give myself to. And even if I just want it to be fun, I'm extremely selective because I recognize my value. Now, a lot of women are moving away from the lady standard, and this is old school principles, so maybe times have changed. I don't know. The way I look at it, as much as things change, a lot of it stayed the same. So the ladies are the one who recognize that they're worth more than just a good time. The ladies are the ones that will have sex with their man or with someone who gave some type of commitment. The ladies would rather be single than sell out. Those are the ladies. Then you got the husbands, the gentlemen's first, who, it's not like the gentleman doesn't utilize hoes, because you could be a gentleman to utilize a hoe. But as a gentleman, you also recognize that if she's a lady, you're not going to try to turn her into a hoe. These were old school rules. Back in the day, my OGs always told me there's going to be plenty of women you can have fun with. The ones that are wifey material, you leave them alone. You don't lie to them. You don't talk a good game to them. But you just reserve them. You keep them as pure as possible, because one day you're going to be looking for a wife. And karma's a mother. Listen, the way karma works, if you keep ruining too many of these ladies, you're going to find yourself without one. And so one of the old school principles, it was just understood, you leave ladies alone. There's always those women, especially if you're in your 20s, you just getting started with life, there's still women who've never been touched. You're not supposed to be the one to touch her if you're not trying to commit to her. You leave her alone. And let me also be clear, because I know we live in sensitive times. If you've been touched, that doesn't make you a hoe automatically. Like I said, a lady would, give her body to a man that has made it known that he's committed to her. So if she had previous relationships and she's no longer a virgin, that doesn't automatically make her a hoe. It's in the matter in which she chooses to entertain the brothers that determine if she's a hoe, right? If she's just giving it up to whoever she wants, knowing it's just a good time, that's fine. Once again, being a hoe is nothing to be degraded about. But this is where I think the rubber meets the road. You can't be a hoe expected to be treated like a wife. Like hoes, there's certain privileges that comes with being a hoe, and then there's other privileges reserved for your wife. And if you just a hoe, no disrespect, but you can't expect me to be concerned about your everyday affairs if I'm just having fun with you. You can't expect me to be concerned about your finances, even your health, what's going on with your other kids, because we're just having fun. And I think the problem is a lot of people think because there's a sexual interaction that assumes a certain level of commitment and responsibility. It's not how the game works. If you a hoe, you're getting minimum of anything. And the real players will act like they care, but they won't really help you out because you're just a hoe to them. Now, if you're a lady, that's something completely different. If they see you as their lady, there's a level of investment that they have in your well-being and your future. They don't want to leave you stranded. They want to make sure that you're good. Why? Because they actually care about you. You're more than a good time to them. You're someone worth investing in. And so I don't want hoes to be mistaken, because you don't want to find out that you're a hoe when you're in need. You want to be clear of the relationship dynamics so that your expectations can be adjusted, so that as a hoe, you recognize you're just going to get whole things. But as a lady, you recognize you might find some brothers who don't need to have sex with you to care about you. Even before you find your husband, brothers, gentlemen will always help out a lady. Because see, when a brother helps out a hoe, sometimes it can cause confusion in the dynamics. The hoe starts to think that he wants more. Or even worse, the hoe starts to fall in love with the man who's never treated her that way. And now she starts to get a little clingy. She starts to even interfere in his relationships. You know how many brothers lost good relationships because of accusations from a hoe? Lying about what really went down? Making up stories, texting all certain times of night to cause friction in the relationship? Come on, brothers, you know what I'm talking about. Because a lot of you ain't did nothing. But the way that hoe was moving, you entertained the hoe too much. And now she done fell in love with you thinking you about to save her. A lot of hoes are looking for salvation, but they got to look to Jesus for that. Can't no man save no hoe. You got to go to the Lord and save yourself. Because, look, the game is the game. Don't save us. And some of y'all really don't want to be saved neither. You just don't like the negative consequences of being a hoe. You don't like being passed around from person to person, but you also don't really want to be locked down with just one. You got to make a decision. Do you want to be a lady? Do you want to be a hoe? Because hoes don't get wise, but ladies do. So let's go back and talk a little bit about the player and the pimp, because they're very similar. But the player isn't necessarily dark, while the pimp has to be dark. So when you're looking at a pimp, according to old school game, now once again, things might have changed, but with old school game, the pimp needed his hoes to fear him more than they loved him, because the fear will prevent her from running off or diming him out. The fear is why she's taking care of him. So the pimp uses fear. So in order to instill that fear in her, you have to have a level of darkness in you, because the dark side uses fear. The light uses love. And so what the player does, the player gets his hoes to fall in love with him without ever selling her a dream, without ever selling her a vision. It's like, this is who I am, and if you love me enough, you'll be willing to accept whatever comes with me, even if that means a lack of commitment. And so the player, it's not to say the player is innocent or good. I don't want to necessarily say that, right? But the player understands that I could get more from her if she loves me versus if she fears me. And the thing about the player is so good at what he does. He's not concerned about any woman that rejects him because he knows the swag that he has, the energy that he brings, just the charisma. There's going to be plenty of women that's going to fall in love with him. And if I'm keeping honest with you, in today's time, so many of you guys are losers that you're making it easy for the players nowadays. Like, if the real players, like, if I talk about myself all the time, I'm a retired player. And I say that was God's grace on you because you guys are so corny that if I was out of retirement, none of y'all would get any play. Whatever city I lived in, it would be a wrap for all of you because y'all all corny. Y'all got nothing to talk about. There's no intellect. There's no mystique. There's no swag. You guys are corny. Y'all not reading books. Y'all not traveling the world. Y'all don't know how to stimulate the mind. And y'all so horny that just because she's fine, you feel like you got to always talk about how fine she is. You love bombing her. You don't even got to, just be a regular dope person. If she's fine, I promise she already know that. And you saying that, you just sound like everybody else. You really want to be that player. Introduce yourself. Hey, how you doing? I recognize you. And I was just curious. What are your plans for the next 5 years? She's going to look at you like, what? And she's going to think you're joking. And when you say, well, I'm interested in you, but I can't be interested in someone who's not interesting. That type of wordplay, that type of charisma, come on, it's so easy. And y'all such losers that y'all should be glad I'm in retirement. And I love my wife. Baby, I love you. You know I ain't going nowhere. Let me also, because I didn't talk about this, I got to talk about simps for a little bit. Because that's important. The simp would be the guy who's trying to save the hoe. There's more to the simp than that. So let me go to the foundation. A simp is a brother who doesn't acknowledge that the woman he's with is not worth the energy he's putting in. That's a simp. So typically, simps link up with hoes of all types, the public, the private, and the pricey hoe. Simps tend to link up with hoes because they typically didn't get a lot of play from women, and hoes know how to make a brother feel good. That's why brothers did with hoes in the first place. Hoes know how to stimulate him physically. And because he's never had this type of experience before, he starts to think, oh, if I love her a certain way, she won't be a hoe. I want to be very clear. If she's a hoe, she is a hoe either by choice or by trauma. And ain't enough love to stop a hoe from being a hoe. She has to make different choices or she has to go get some therapy. I want to keep it a buck. I gotta be honest with my brothers because some of you, you're wifing hoes and you're wondering why your experience is what it is. She was supposed to be a good time, not a long time. And you got caught up in your emotions and now you're trying to save her. Or you grew up in some type of religious context and you feel guilty, so now you're trying to save her. That's what makes you a simp. You're never a simp taking care of your wife. You're never a simp being a gentleman, making sure that the ladies are good and that they're safe. None of that makes you a simp. You're a simp when you're investing so much energy in a person and a relationship that doesn't deserve that level of energy. You're a simp because you don't know your own value. You're a simp because you're arrogant enough to think that your character can change her status as a hoe. That's what makes you a simp. You're a simp because you think that you're special because you're able to tolerate other things that respectable men would never accept in their relationships. That's what makes you a simp. It's not your love that makes you a simp. It's your approach to low-level women that make you a simp. Because if she was a high-level woman, she would never talk to you the way she does. She would never treat you the way she does. She wouldn't be out in the streets the way that she is. Like, if she was truly the lady that you want her to be, there's certain things that come with that. You want her to be the lady when she's really for the streets. You're a simp because you won't just let her be out there. Let her be out there and go find you a real wife because they still exist. It is not your job to save these hoes. All right, let me give you an example of what a pricey hoe might look like. You meet a young lady, let's say you meet her at the gym, right? Y'all going to the gym, right? Hope y'all going to the gym. It's 2025, let's go to the gym. You meet a young lady at the gym, you're having a conversation. Y'all been seeing each other, y'all been past each other, then you finally build up the courage to talk to her. You say, hey, I'd like to take you out. And she's like, yeah, that'd be cool. And then you're like, all right, how about, we go out for like some coffee or something by the park. And she's like, oh no, if you're gonna go out with me, I gotta go to the finest restaurants. Pricey hoe. Pricey hoe. She won't say that. Let me also say this while I'm at it. You never call a hoe to her face. That's rule number one, because most hoes will never admit that they're a hoe unless they are actually whores. In which case, they're real sex workers who are doing this for financial gain, and they're overt about it. They might be the only ones. Outside of that, most of these hoes will never admit or accept that they're hoes. So I'm breaking down what it looks like so you can know and you can make decisions, right? Because a lady would never say, I have to go to a fancy restaurant. Why? Because a lady is trying to get to know you just as much as you're trying to get to know her. And she's not looking to gain as much as she can financially before there's any real connection or commitment. So she's comfortable with going out for some coffee or something like, we don't even got to go get some food. Why don't we meet up at the park and just take a walk? Or we could go to the library and have a lady is not going to go straight for your pockets, but a pricey hoe will. So a pricey hoe is not an expensive hoe. A pricey hoe is a hoe with a price. A hoe for sale. So another way to recognize a pricey hoe is when she's judging you based off the car that you drive. That's a pricey hoe. A pricey hoe is going to judge you based off the clothes that you wear. Not that, if you're looking filthy and disgusting, then that don't make her a hoe. It's when she's looking for name brand instead of decency and cleanliness, where if you're not wearing name brand, then you must be a broke. Real, broke niggas don't deserve no pussy, however the words go. Yeah, that's pricey hoe language, right? They want a man with money because they have a price on them, and they're expecting to get access to that money. Now, if you're a player, you can use that to your advantage and never break them off no money if you got the swag and the charisma to win them over, but it's still gonna be a temporary relationship. That's what makes you a player. You're not going to try to win her over to save her. Nah, she got to go to Jesus. She needs to go get baptized. Matter of fact, if you know any hoes who said they changed their life, ask them when they got baptized. Matter of fact, if they haven't got baptized, you make sure you're there. And be there for the Bible studies too. See how she responds to the word before you believe her words. Because these hoes will lie to you in a heartbeat and say that they've changed only because they want some of your change. So a pricey hoe can be cheap, but she still comes with a price. And if you pay the price, you're a trick. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, here's the other thing. If you're a player, pimp, or trick, nobody stays in those three roles indefinitely. So sometimes for some women, you're the player. For other women, you're the trick. For other women, you might be the hoe. For other women, you might be the pimp. And so it's all about how you're interacting with each of these relationships. And hopefully you find one where you can be the husband, where you give her parts of your heart that you never gave nobody else. And that's the other thing. Be careful to not give your heart to these hoes. Your heart is the highest price you can pay in a relationship dynamic. I'd rather you give her money than give her your heart. You got to vet her to know that she's worthy of your heart. Because if she break that heart, she might turn you into a trick or a pimp or a player. You might have been a good dude who really wanted that lady, but you fell in love with a hoe. You ain't know no better. Your daddy didn't teach you about these ladies in the night. No, or they spoke of them like they were so disgusting, didn't tell you how good they make you feel. So you met this woman and she's making you feel good. She's making you feel like you the man that you always thought that you were. Right? But she was a hoe the whole time. Then you gave her your heart. And now you find out that it wasn't just you, but she was making the block feel like that. Now your heart's broken. What happens? You start to treat every woman like she a hoe. Nah, bro. You made the mistake in giving your heart to a hoe. You should have vetted her better. You should have had a community of brothers who could have helped you see, nah, she's not the one. See, that's why y'all need to grow y'all social network. Because I'm going to tell you something, especially if you in your 30s or 40s, she might have a past that you don't know about. And I'm not saying you got to keep her to her past. I'm saying you got to make sure that she got salvation before you move forward. Because if she ain't find Jesus, she might still be out there. And let me also say this while I'm talking about them finding Jesus. It's very different between them finding Jesus and them finding religion. I'm going to give y'all a little game, just a little bit, but don't use it for evil. Most of the hoes are in the church. Most of the hoes are in the mosque. Most of the hoes are in yoga class. Most of the hoes claim a spirituality that they don't live by. You want to really find the hoes, they going to use their sexuality and call it a spiritual liberation. Oh, you got you the best of hoes. I'm telling you, you got the right game and the right swag, or you going to have a good time with her. So don't ever mistake her being religious to mean that she found Jesus. These are two different things. The one who found Jesus, she ain't even looking for the player. She ain't looking for the pimp. She ain't looking for the trick. She's looking for a brother who loves the Lord just as much as her. That's the lady that found Jesus. But these hoes, oh yeah, they're going to get in your pocket. And they're going to frame it. See, because let me try to give you some hoe language. A hoe is never going to say, yo, you got, unless she's in the sex work, she's never going to say you got to pay me. She's going to use language like, I know my worth. And that worth be connected to something material. Right? Because if she knew her worth, she would be dealing with intangible qualities like respect, intellect, loyalty, right? The things that can't be bought. If she knew her worth, she'll be looking for those things. But if her worth is connected to material, she's a pricey hoe. So most hoes won't admit or accept that they're hoes, and here's the reason why. Number one, it's hard for hoes to accept that they're temporary. The idea of being temporary comes off as degrading. And once again, I'm not trying to degrade you if you're a hoe. But in not accepting that, they won't accept that they're a hoe because this idea of being temporary feels like they're less than, especially those that use language like, I know my worth. So they can never accept that. The other thing is, in today's era, and even back in the day, but in today's era, women want to have sexual expression. And brothers, if you're not looking for a wife, you want women to want to have sexual expression. So if you know that calling her a hoe or any equivalent of it is going to discourage her from having those experiences with you, don't do that. Don't do that in front of her, because you're only messing yourself up. And don't ever call her a hoe when you're angry or upset, because that just shows your lack of emotional control. Because now you're using it as a derogatory term. Because you ain't calling her a hoe when she was doing whatever she was doing, but now that you're upset, you're going to call her a hoe. Or now that you found out she was outside, you're going to call her a hoe. Don't use the term hoe in a derogatory sense if you're looking to have sexual experiences with women, because they're going to get turned off by that. But honestly, they also get turned off when you call them a wife and y'all don't have no real commitment. It's too much for them. So just focus on nicknames or call them by their regular name, but the regular nicknames are still good. Sweetheart, honey, babe, like that stuff still works. And if you're from the East Coast like me, you can still call them Ma. Yo, what's good, Ma? That still work. They like that, especially if they're not from New York. They're like, oh, the swag, right? But don't ever call her a hoe to her face, because she's not going to admit that because of how it makes her feel, because of the connotation with the word, even if she fits the description. And be careful what brothers you call her a hoe in front of too. I recommend not calling them hoes in front of anybody, because you don't know how other people are going to talk about how you're talking about them. Everybody got that best friend that's not in that circle group. And so when that leaves that circle group, they're going to go to that best friend who has another best friend who's not in that circle group. And that's how word gets around. You just got to be wise. So I wouldn't call any of them hoes. I'm calling them hoes to differentiate between ladies and women who are meant to be used for temporary purposes. And when I say meant to be, it's by their choice. It's by the woman's choice. There are women who don't want to be around for a long time. There are women who are just as horny as men who just want to have sex. I'm trying to find a term that lets you understand those type of women. I'm using the term hoe. We could call them sluts. We could call them skeezers. Nobody likes any of those terms. And of course, the women are going to say, why can't you just call them women? Well, the reality is there's different quality of women, just like there's different quality of men. Which is why I said hoe is a gender neutral term. Men are hoes all the time. Some men are comfortable being hoes. And the women know who the community dick is. And the women entertain said community dick. Why? Because he's a hoe. They're not expecting him to become a husband. They're not looking to commit to him long term. They're not trying to talk about his day, except if it's going to get him in the mood to give them the dick that they're looking for. These women are identifying the male hoes. Because whether you're a man or a woman, if you move in a way that says, I am temporary and only here for a good time, sexually, then you're a hoe. It's really that simple. If you're a person who can use your charisma to get people to like you and fall in love with you and offer themselves sexually to you, you're a player. Don't sleep on the women players. Brothers, I'm going to tell you right now, women play better than men because of this illusion that women don't want sex as much. Women know how to emotionally manipulate men better. They know how to cry on command. They know how to deflect better than we can. Women players, they know how to play the game. Women pimps, you want to talk about being able to cut a man down to make him feel like he's useless without her? Oh, yeah. Nah, women pimps pimp better than men pimps, I'm telling you. And let's not talk about the women tricks. Look, if you just want to do a social experiment, go to any strip club. Go to a male strip club and a female strip club. Watch how the women tip. I rest my case. Women trick harder than men sometimes. Quick to give the man the car. Quick to give the man, have him lay up in her bed in her house, right? Quick to throw him a couple dollars so he can be distracted about all the other stuff that she's doing. Yo, women, look, so these terms are gender neutral, but I'm using them the way I'm using them because of how they're typically used. But they're not, a woman ain't a hoe and a man ain't a pimp. It don't work like that. How are you engaging sexually? That determines if you're a player, pimp, trick, hoe, lady, gentleman, spouse. So when it comes to male hoes in society today, one of the issues is that society is no longer identifying the difference between a male hoe and a male player. So society assumes that if a man is having sex with a lot of women, he's a player. They're not calling him a hoe. But the truth is, if they understood what a hoe was in the way that I broke it down, male hoes wouldn't be celebrated. Male hoes wouldn't be seen as conquerors. Male hoes would actually be ostracized because you're quite opposite, especially if we go into the masculine and feminine dynamics. Male hoes are not masculine. They're not warriors. They're only here. It's like, and if you talk to anybody worth their salt, I'm talking about people that are making major changes in this world, whether financially, socially, whatever. If you take any of them as a mentor, one of the things they're always going to tell men is to have dick control. You can't just have sex with everybody and anything that walks by. Any respectable man will counsel and coach his male counterparts to the same thing. All this constantly having sex is distracting you, is taking you away from your ability to focus on the goal. That's what they will all say. There is not one mentor who's doing great things that won't bring up that point to their male mentees. You have to have dick control. You can't have sex with her just because she's cute. You can't have sex with your subordinates. You can't have sex with your coworkers. The old vernacular, and excuse my language, you shouldn't shit where you eat, right? There's a certain level of dick control. Don't matter how much she's throwing it at you, you say no, right? So your inability to say no makes you a hoe. It'll make you a player. And so if more people understood that, male hoes would be better identified. So they're celebrated simply because they're able to mask the fact that they're players. It's just like how female players are being demonized as hoes. When if you look into the dynamics of a female player, she's very much in control. She got this dude for the light bill. She got this dude for the rent. She got this dude for the car note. She got this dude for the trips. She got this dude to watch her kids. It's like, and they're all dudes who she's not committed to, but they just like her that much. She's a player, dog. She ain't no hoe. She's a player. And she could replace him like that. Because these dudes just keep falling for it. She knows how to value herself and use herself and market herself in such a way that she can choose the men that she wants. Now, does that mean she could choose any man? No, because when a player meets a player, there's a power structure. Because one of them's going to have to become the hoe. And so this power struggle, sometimes it ends in a stalemate. Or it ends in marriage. Because they both respect each other so much that they say, you know what? We're going to choose each other and lock this down. It's a very, man, I wish I had time to give you all the game, but this thing is deep, yo. And if y'all got questions, put them in the comment section. Maybe I'll do other videos answering those questions. So there are men who are simps, and then there's men that are lame. A simp might not be lame in his presentation. Matter of fact, he can't be lame in his presentation, otherwise he won't get any women. You can't be a simp if you're not getting women to simp on. So a simp is one of those guys who can't differentiate between the ladies and the hoes. A simp is a guy who thinks they all should be valued the same. What I mean by valued the same, they're all wifey potential, like wifey material. You should respect everybody. I want to be clear. I can't stress that enough. You need to respect everybody. You're not degrading anybody. But if you can't tell the difference between the shorty for the moment and the shorty for the memories, then you're a simp. Because there are women or men that are meant for just now. If you go on a trip somewhere and you vibing with some shorty at the pool after taking 4 or 5 shots, and now you talking about you want to marry her, you're a simp, my brother, because you don't know her. And that was just a vibe. Yes, are there outliers? Of course, there's outliers to everything. But that's not the rule. The rule doesn't say you're going to meet your spouse at the club. Have some met their spouse at the club? Sure. But that's not the rule. Who you meet at the club is typically for now, for a good time, not a long time. The lame is the guy or girl who can't get no play. That's what makes you lame. Nobody likes you. Nobody's attracted to you. And the reason why nobody's attracted to you, see, the lame makes excuses outside of themselves as to why they're not getting any play. It's because society is messed up, or, there's piss in the dating pool. No, nobody likes you because you're corny. And here's the thing: you can work on being less corny. And look, so I'm a retired player. The quirky aspects of me, the geeky aspects, the corny aspects of me, only my wife and my closest friends see that part. Because I could trust them with those aspects of me. The rest of y'all not gonna get none of that. Why would I even give that to you? Why would I be so vulnerable in front of you? What sense does that make? Just from a logical perspective, why would I be so desperate for acceptance that I become just naive in how I approach other people? You know, like lames just simply have to learn social science so that they can show up a certain way, which I talk about in my course, the universal attractions. There are things that just make you universally attractive that we all can work on. How you speak, how you dress, etc. I'm not gonna give it all to you. Now you gotta register for the course. But it's not hard to not be lame. It's actually quite simple. And being smart doesn't automatically make you lame. Being a geek doesn't automatically make you a lame. I remember there was a time where if you watch anime, you got laughed at. But now that's the new fad, right? But there was a bunch of so-called cool people that used to watch anime. They just didn't talk about it with this particular group. They're not into that world. They knew how to keep that to themselves or keep it reserved for the other groups where they would appreciate it. You don't gotta be a lame. You can make different choices. No one's ever that ugly, right? And no one's ever that corny. If I'm honest with you, you're just that lazy. And if that offended you, that's why you're lame. You can dress better. You can find a style that works for you. You can learn how to navigate conversations. These are all skills. If you're just too lazy to do it, then that's what makes you lame because you're lazy. It has nothing to do with anything else. So I feel like being a lame is a choice, in my opinion. Make better choices. So when it comes to guys switching from being a player to a pimp to a trick based off of who they're interacting with, the reason why they switch is really because of their inability to control their emotions around certain people. In other words, certain energies are more dominating than others. So um, when you get around certain personalities or certain energies, there's an aspect of you that kind of concedes to what they're looking for. So it takes a lot of strength to be just a sturdy person, like a steadfast person everywhere you go. And as much as people want to believe that they're the same person everywhere they go, most people are not the same person everywhere they go. A lot of you, and most of you know this, you have a job person, you have that social person, you have that house person, and so it's the same way. You're a player with these types of women, but you're a pimp with these types of women, and you're a trick with these types of women. It's about your inability to, or when I say inability, what I mean is, let's say you want to be the player, because that's the assumption. When I say inability, I'm assuming there's a role that you want to consistently play. So let's say you want to be the player with all women. But the way that she's talking, the way that she's moving, just what she's bringing, just make you be like, all right, here, what you need. And it's like, it's her, but it's really you in that you lack the ability to stand 10 toes around that type of energy. But you won't run or you won't flee or you won't avoid that type of energy because you like the benefits that's coming from her specifically. Women, women, if I'm talking to men specifically, women can sense that in you. Matter of fact, if you talk to anyone who does sex work, they look for that mark. You walk in the room, you ain't even said nothing to her, but there's an energy about you that says, there's my mark. She's watching how you talk to the bartender. She's watching the type of drink that you get, and she's plotting. She's a sniper where she's plotting from a distance. Say, yeah, that's my mark. I'm gonna get him to come off with And when they're skilled, they know how to do that. They also know there's some men that would never. The only time I've been in the strip club was for bachelor parties, and I never even got a lap dance for myself. I have an issue with paying for things I can get for free. That's me, right? So even if it's abundant around me and everybody else is doing it, there's a part of me that's just like, I can go home and get my lap dance right now. So why would I pay for this here? And when I was single, before I was married, I never had to pay for it. So I just have a stubbornness, maybe, just as a resolve in me that's like, shorty, you can't get me to pay for any sexual favors. I'm too ill for that. Like I'm too much of a player for that. I don't need to pay for it. Every man can't move like that in every circle. So that's why they switch. And so this also goes back to self-awareness because some brothers, they only want to talk about when they're so-called up. They don't like to talk about the time that there was a hoe for Shorty. They don't want to talk about how Shorty was using them for their money and they couldn't see it because she was just doing all this nasty stuff and saying all these empowering words and he was being manipulated. Men typically don't like to talk about that. They only want to talk about when they bagged her, when they got her to do this, and so a lot of dudes, they was the player with these women and they was the hoes with these other women because they became the hoes the moment they started looking for love, not realizing that they was looking for love in all the wrong places. Can I be honest with you? Let's have like a moment of seriousness. A lot of the players are heartbroken. A lot of the players are insecure. That's why they're players. They're players because every time they bag a shorty, it makes them feel valuable. But they really want to be loved. And so instead of getting the mental help that they need, they just opt to being players. And so when they find a woman that they're just crazy attracted to, if she's a hoe, he's gonna fall victim. Or if she's a player, he's gonna fall victim because she's gonna play him. It's like, oh, some of y'all too young, but I'm gonna give the reference anyway. It's like the movie Boomerang. Eddie Murphy was the player until he met this one shorty, and then he became the hoe. And there was the other shorty that really could have been the lady for him that he ended up getting at the end, but he was just looking at her like a friend because he knew that she wasn't like that, so he wasn't trying to, you know what I mean? Boomerang. If you ain't seen the movie Boomerang, watch that movie Boomerang. It illustrates a lot of the things that I'm talking about in this video. But you get what I'm saying? That's it right there. Boomerang shows how you can these roles can be interchangeable based off of the energy dynamic between the people. Listen, if you are a brother, a man, an uncle, if you are a single mother who wants their son to have some type of core values, you want to get the Restoring Masculinity course. In that course, I deal with how masculinity works, how femininity works, how to conquer your ego, how to build masculinity, how to transmute energy, talk about how to master your emotions, how to express and feel your emotions without allowing your emotions to take over you. It is a great course. I highly recommend it. Go to www.lsmasculinity.com, and that is only for brothers who actually want to do better. You know, single moms who want their sons to have some type of code of ethics. This is the course for you. Register today. Do not waste any time.